What if I told you that the thing that's holding your business back isn't your skill, but the conversations you're avoiding? What I'm talking about is how most stylists don't struggle with talent, struggle with uncomfortable conversations. We as hairstylists, we avoid them because we don't want conflict. We definitely don't want our clients upset. We don't want to look like we're mean and we don't appreciate them. But most importantly, we're afraid we're going to lose them. But I want to ask you something. What is it actually costing you to stay quiet? Money? Respect? Confidence? Client retention? Or what about your peace? In this episode, I'm walking you through the 3 client conversations most hairstylists avoid. And I'm going to teach you how to learn to handle them both professionally and with confidence. Do you want a full chair with a steady flow of clients and more confidence behind the chair, but you struggle with slow books, inconsistent income, and feeling stuck or discouraged? If so, my friend, you're in the right place. Hey, I'm Sherry Brody, hairstylist, educator, and mentor behind the chair. After rebuilding my business multiple times, I've learned how to own my chair like a business, creating clarity, confidence, and consistency without the feeling of burnout. So grab your shears, step behind the chair with me, and let's build that business you've been dreaming of. I'd like to share a review that just came in with you today. I just love reading these reviews. It just keeps me inspired to just keep getting my message out there. It says, I couldn't recommend this podcast more for young stylists. The insight and wisdom Sherry brings to each episode is not just enlightening, but encouraging too. She brings decades of industry knowledge in an easy to understand and straightforward way. So glad I found this. 3 exclamation points. These reviews mean the world to me. So if you have been listening to my podcast and there's been some episodes that have really helped you in your journey, would you do me a favor and hit the subscribe button and leave me a review? I would love to know. Let's get into the episode. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Cutting Through It. I'm Sherry Brody, your host. And in today's episode, I want to talk about something that probably is one of the biggest complaints I hear in the back room at work or from a lot of hairstylists that I have talked to in my classes, or they have asked me questions about this. And that is about client behavior. And this is what I'm talking about. Those clients that are always late. They walk in 10 to 15 minutes and have a Starbucks in their hand, or they always have an excuse, or they have that last minute cancellation because something came up. It doesn't just happen once, it happens numerous times. Or the client that no shows. These are really hard situations that we as hairstylists have to deal with, unfortunately. And guys, when I speak about this, I speak about it because I've experienced it. And I lost a lot of income. I lost a lot of just self-respect for myself because it doesn't feel good when you have a client that disrespects you and your business, but you're not strong enough to say anything because you're sitting in this place of, at least I was in a place of like fear because I didn't want to lose them. I didn't want them to talk negatively about me out into the world. And yes, we blame the client, right? Because they're the ones doing it. But I'm going to be real with you guys. It's not the client's fault. It's yours. Just as it was mine. Because when we avoid these conversations and we don't address them, then we sit in a place of frustration and nothing changes. And we continually lose income and we end up losing our confidence. And a lot of times it leads down to a road of just, I see hairstylists leaving the industry because they're feeling burned out. There was an educator that I have respected so much in my life. And there was something that he said, a quote that he said in quite a few of the classes I took from him. I worked with Aquage for many years. His name is Eric Fisher. I have so much respect for him. If you ever get the opportunity to learn from him, I highly recommend it. But there's something he always said, and he said, successful people do the things that unsuccessful people don't want to do. Let that sink in a little bit. Because guys, if you want to be successful, we're going to have these uncomfortable conversations. There was a client of mine that I had that he was a great client. I met him in a networking group. He was very influential in the area that I was working in. He was a source of a lot of clients that I had sitting in my chair because he referred them. And he had many high-end businesses, restaurants in the area that I worked in. And he was a client of mine for quite a while. But there was something about him that just really bothered me. He was always the one that would run in late for his appointment because he got tied up on an appointment at work, or he got stuck at work. And he would cancel a lot, guys, at the last minute. And so then I would, because I wanted to keep him so bad, I would shuffle clients around, or I would stay late, or I would come in on a day off just to keep him. I was in that place that I was afraid of losing him. And I was afraid that he was going to, of course, I was going to lose the people that he sent. But I knew, just like what Eric Fisher said, if I wanted to be successful, I was going to have to do things that weren't pleasant so that I could be successful. So one day I had that conversation with him. He came in, and I can honestly tell you, I was a nervous wreck because the guy was super influential. And here I was, his hairstylist, and I was going to be potentially firing him. When he sat in my chair, we did the typical greeting that we always do, gave him a hug and did a little chit chat. And then I said, before we start your service today, I need to speak with you about something. And I told him, I said, I really appreciate your patronizing my business for so many years. And you've just been a great resource for a lot of people that are my clients. And I want you to know how much I appreciate that. I really need to let you know, though, that I don't know if I can continue to do your hair because over the last year or so, you've canceled on me numerous times at the last minute. And then you've also been late. And I don't know if you realize that, but I don't make an income when you cancel last minute. I have people that are on a wait list, and it doesn't give me time to get them in. And when you're late, it affects the rest of my day. And it makes my other clients unhappy with me. So I really need to know if you're able to change this. I would love it if you can make it a priority to be here on time and not cancel at the last minute and give me the respect to give me the notice I need to be able to rebuild. Then I would love to continue this relationship because I value you. But at this point, it's costing me. And guys, I was shocked by his response. Because he was a business person as well, he looked at me and said, Sherry, I'm really sorry. He said, I have really disrespected you. And he goes, and I didn't mean to. He said, I really appreciate that you shared this with me today. And I would really like to continue being your client. And guys, he did. He ended up being my client for a very, very long time. He ended up always over-tipping me after that. He was never late again. And when he did have to cancel a few times, he was, he was making sure that he called me ahead of time. And in fact, there was one time that something did come up in his family, and it was like an illness or something. And he actually paid me for that appointment because he didn't want to lose the ability to be my client. And what I realized in that situation was that, yes, he was disrespecting me, but you know what, guys? I wasn't respecting myself. I wasn't owning my business. You'll hear me a lot in these episodes speaking about your chair as your business. Your chair that you work behind, you are the CEO of that chair. That chair is your business. And guys, if you're not going to respect yourself to set boundaries and to speak up for yourself, then your clients are never going to respect you as well. So today, let's talk about some of those biggest challenging conversations that we have to have. And let's learn how to deal with them so that they don't feel so scary anymore. And I decided on this episode that we would deal with the 3 top challenging situations that we have. And the first one is, how do we tell a client that they cannot have the style or their, or the color from their inspiration photo that they're showing you? How do we tell them no without upsetting them or making them feel like we weren't really listening to them? And the second one is, how do we deal with those chronic late clients, the ones that no-show and the last minute cancellation? And the third one is those negative Nellies out there that sit in our chair. You know those ones. They sit in your chair and it's like you feel it. They're just negative, negative, negative. And they're the ones that are going to question every price that you do, every price increase, all that kind of stuff. So those are the three ones we're going to deal with today. So the first one is, how do we tell a client no when they show us an inspiration photo? I want to first say, honestly, guys, it's not hard to tell a client no that they can't have the style that they're wanting if you do a proper and thorough consultation. Now, I'm not going to go into consultations in depth in this episode, but I go more in depth on consultations and how to really communicate with your client and really figure out what they're wanting and be able to, give them something that they leave happy, even if it's not what they came in recommending. And you can find those episodes on episode 3 and episode 16. But I'm first going to tell you on how to deal with this is that, making sure that in your consultation, when they're showing you an inspiration photo, of asking really, really open-ended questions to get them talking about why they're wanting it, first of all. But second of all, making sure during your consultation that you are not only listening to what they're saying, but you're verbalizing to them as you're going through the consultation and listening to them, that you're noting their head shape, you're noting the texture of their hair, you're noting and repeating back to them the answers that they're saying. For example, if a client's coming in and they're saying they want a short haircut, and you know that to put that short haircut on them, they're going to have to style it every day and they're going to have to use product to make it look good. But in the consultation, when you ask them how much time they had and if they wanted to use products, their answer was, I don't have a lot of time and I refuse to use product. Then right there, you've answered one of the questions about how to communicate that back to them. For instance, I had a client not long ago. She wanted a short haircut. And after speaking with her, one of the things was that she didn't want to use a lot of product. She didn't want to learn how to style it. She wanted it to be wash and wear. And she showed me a picture of a neckline that was like, it was one that was like kind of piecey, but kind of shaggy on the neckline. But upon looking at her neckline, she had really strong growth patterns in her neckline. So I knew right away there was absolutely no way I could get her neckline to look like that. And because of her lack of desire to style it and use products, there again, that was another reason. So when we finished it, just from talking with her, feeling her head shape, and looking at all her growth patterns all around the face and the frontal area and the nape and the sides, I then shared with her some photos from my Pinterest that if you don't, I'm just going to tell you right now that you should always have a Pinterest with different albums of different links of haircuts and colors and all that stuff, so you can go right to it during your consultation. And I showed her what would work. And I explained to her, when I was looking at your head shape, you have this head shape, your neckline has these growth patterns and they won't work with this. But this, just from listening to you, this would probably be a good compromise. And I showed her 3 different pictures. And with those, we came up with a style that we agreed on. And when I was all finished, she was so happy. And one of her comments to me was, you're like the 3rd person I've been to asking for this haircut. And nobody's ever taken the time to explain to me, that I really couldn't have it. And that tells me why I haven't been happy. So what through this conversation I'm trying to share with you is that, When you take control of the situation by doing a consultation and really being thorough with it, it's not hard to tell them no, because they've been watching you and they're going to respect you as a professional because you've taken the time to not only listen to them, you've taken the time to look and really assess the situation. So therefore, when you're telling her she can't have what she wants, then she's going to be very easily persuaded into what she can because she respects you. Do you understand what I'm saying? I hope so. I hope that this is resonating with you, that we just don't skip over those consultations. And another one is a color client. So I had a color client years ago. She would always pull warm in her hair and she hated it. She'd always say, it's always pulling warm. She's always complaining about it. And when she showed me a picture of what she wanted, I just said to her, you know what? I'm sorry, but your hair always seems to fade warm and you're not willing to go this dark. Like I showed her the color of hair that the level she would need to go to in order to remove all the dark. It was almost a level 1 or 2. And she was absolutely not wanting to go there. And I said, this is just you. This is just your hair. And this is not something you're able to do. So then I showed her other pictures of other colors to get an idea of what she would want to do. And what we ended up doing was she did go a little bit darker and we ended up making it a little bit cooler. But because I shared with her why her hair was not going to be what she wanted it to be and explained that to her and then showed her what she could have, then it worked out fine. And then also there's been clients that have sat in my chair that have asked for a service that I wasn't comfortable doing. I've had a client that, I've been doing her haircuts for a long time, and then she wanted a dimensional color that I wasn't experienced in. I can do highlights, I can do, color blocking, that kind of thing. But what she wanted was more blonding. And so I recommended her to somebody that specializes in blonding. I would rather not do the service and recommend her out than to do it and not be confident in it and not have a good positive result. And when I shared with her that, I didn't lose her as a client. She ended up saying to me, well, what can you do? I want to continue doing this with you. And we came to a compromise of something I was comfortable with, and she was happy. But on the other end of it, what I'm trying to share with you is that I wasn't too prideful and embarrassed to not admit to her that this wasn't something that I was confident in. So I hope this makes sense, because a lot of times, when we have to say no to a client for a style or color, it's either going to be because it's not going to work with their lifestyle, it's not going to work with their texture of hair, their growth patterns, the shape of their head, or it's something we're not comfortable with doing, that we're not experienced yet in doing. And I'm going to tell you right now, when you're honest with a client like that, they're going to respect you so much more. And it's going to go so much further than to do something on a client that you're not comfortable with and then it not turning out well, because clients will talk more about a bad service than they will about a good service. It's just human nature. Okay, the second one is that chronic late client or the no-shower or the last-minute cancellation. This one's a tough one because these conversations are probably one of the hardest, just like in the story that I shared with you from my own experience. That's not the only time I've had to do that, guys. It's just one that really stood out to me because it was a hard one. And it was one that I had to draw a hard line in the sand because it was affecting my business. But there's something I want to make sure that you have in place before you have these conversations, because it'll make it so much easier. And that is, make sure that you have a very clear no-show cancellation policy. On my website, and by the way, if you don't have a website for yourself, Even if you're a commissioned stylist, I recommend having at least a very small website with a landing page that speaks about you, what your services are, what the pricing is, and your policies. I always tell my clients, I have a thing on my website that says a 24-hour notice cancellation is necessary if you cannot make your appointment. If you do not do that, then I charge them the full price of the service. That's just what I do. And I have that listed so they can read that. So that when I have the conversation with them, I can refer them back to where it's at on my website. I also recommend having some type of verbiage on your email confirmation and on your website, speaking to them being on time for their appointment. Just having something written in there a little bit about saying, appreciate your promptness to be on time for your appointment, as I just want to be respectful of other clients' times as well as yours and to stay on time. I take pride on being time for my clients. If you were 15 minutes late for your appointment, I might have to cancel your appointment and you're going to have to reschedule for another time. And if that does happen, I will then have to enforce the no-show policy and charge you for your service before we can book it. Guys, it sounds harsh, but honestly, one of the biggest reasons clients will leave is if you're always late for them and not on time. They're just going to feel like you don't even respect them. And because I've been there, I'm speaking to you. I'm a hairstylist just like you. I've been doing this for many, many years. And so when I'm speaking to you guys about this, I'm speaking to you about it because these are things that at one point in my career, I did not have in place. I did not have these conversations with my clients, and it cost me a lot of money, and it cost me a lot of stressed out days because I was always trying to keep up, and I lost quite a few clients from running late. We tend to be people pleasers, and that's part of the reason why we have a really hard time with these conversations. But if you want people to respect you, you've got to respect yourself. So, for instance, the story that I had with my client about being about no-showing, I simply said it in a very calm manner and shared with him that this has been a problem. Another client that I did have that I remedied the situation with she was always late, and I really liked this person. I really liked this client. I really enjoyed doing her hair. And so when she came in late one day, I sat her, before I even did her hair, I says, I just need to share with you today, I'm not going to be able to style your hair because you are late. And this seems to be an issue that's happening all the time. And I said, I don't want to lose you as a client because I really enjoy doing your hair, but I can't continue to do your hair if you're always going to be late. And what can we do to make sure that you're on time? Is there a different time of day that's going to work better for you? And we had this conversation, and what ended up happening was I would book her appointment at a certain time, but I actually confirmed it at an earlier time. So then she was always on time. It's something silly that I did. It just happened to be a long-term client. But my point to sharing that with you is that it wasn't such a hard conversation because I was just being totally open with her. I was being authentic with her and just sharing with her, like, I can't keep doing this. It's affecting my business. And she understood that. And then I have had a few clients that, they were, always late and no showing. And I simply would say to them, honestly, I know confrontation in person is very difficult. So there's a few clients that, I would do their service. And if they were always late, I would send them an email later, just a script. You can go onto AI and say, help me write a script to a client that I want to fire. It's not that hard. And shoot them an email letting them know. But when I've had a client that called to cancel, and it had been numerous times, I called them back and just said, I'm sorry. This happens too many times with you. I'm just going to have to let you go as a client. If you'd like, I can refer you to another salon or another stylist, but this has just happened too many times. And it wasn't comfortable, but it felt really good for me. And I ended up as I started putting these boundaries in place and being authentic and being honest with these clients, what started happening was that my clients were respecting my time more. They were respecting me and my business, and I respected myself, which was the best part. I was owning my chair and my business, and it felt great. And it didn't happen until I was doing what successful people do. And that was doing the things that I was scared of, doing the things that was uncomfortable. And what I found out was that as scary as it was, it really wasn't that hard. It felt really great because I was setting boundaries in my business. And what happens, guys, is when we set these boundaries and we have these uncomfortable conversations with our clients, it makes us really enjoy working and doing our work. And we're not feeling so burned out and so worn out at the end of the day. So let's get on to the last one, the negative Nelly. Yeah, there was a client I had. She would come in, guys, and when I saw her name in my books, I would have to prepare myself mentally for this gal. I mean, literally, when she came in and sat in my chair, I mean, you could just feel that she was unhappy, And I was always trying, I'd always make an excuse and say, oh, it's because, something's going on in her life or she's lonely or whatever. I never really addressed the situation, but every time I did her hair, I just would feel really defeated and I felt really small, just the way she would talk to me or make little comments. And one day, this is when I owned my salon, she came in and she was a little more negative that day. And this particular day I was cutting her hair and I don't know about you, but I always forget the side parts, what side they part on. That's just so me. I just said, oh, what side do you part on again? And she just stopped and she looked at me with this ugly voice and said, good God, Sherry, how many times do I have to tell you? I mean, she was so rude. Well, guys, I just took off her cape and I told her to leave. And I said, I don't ever want you to return to the salon again. Don't even pay for it. And she was just stunned. You're not done with my haircut. I said, no, I'm not. But I am done with you and you are no longer welcome in this salon. It was my salon. And of course, all my stylists were freaking out because they'd never seen me as the owner doing that. But I don't share that story with you because I want you to do that to a client. I share it with you because, guys, it was my fault that I had gotten it that far because I didn't deal with it. Since then, within the last year, I had a client come in and I did her one time and she sat in my chair, I did her haircut, but she had that energy that it was a bad energy. And we got done, she made a big deal about the price, blah, blah, blah. Well, she wanted to reschedule. And I just told her, I said, listen, I'm glad you like your haircut, but honestly, I just don't think we're a fit. I think it's best that you find another salon. And she really was shocked, but it felt really good to say it. Because I didn't want her in my chair. I don't want clients like that, and neither do you. And if you aren't comfortable with saying that to their face, then there again, use good old your buddy Chad on ChatGPT. That's what I call him. Have him help you write out a email, and sending them an email and telling them that you do not think that we're a right fit as a stylist and a customer, that I, do not feel that I can make her happy. And I think it's best you find another salon. Thank you for your confidence in me. And I wish you well. That's it. It's that simple. I personally don't do it through text. I'm sure a lot of you do. And if that's what you're comfortable with, then you can also do that through a text. But now we have it so much easier because we can use AI to help us verbalize it. But my whole point to you is deal with it. Don't let it go. You do not need to let any client abuse you ever. When somebody's questioned me about a price increase, when you do a price increase or you have a client that's questioning you about your pricing, it's one of the things is simple. Like you could say, I totally understand that you're on a budget. My services are priced, because of my training and, the quality that I provide. Sometimes if it's a consultation during the color consultation with them and they're kind of shocked by the sticker price, I will say to them at the very beginning, And I'm stressing that at the beginning because, guys, there's nothing worse than to take your client up to the front desk and you've never talked price and you're sitting down a $200 to $300 bill and they are freaked out because they had no idea it was going to cost that much. That is your fault, because before you even start doing the service, they should already have full knowledge of how much your services are. But if somebody is telling me they're nervous about the price and it's going to be this, we have to do a full color, change or a fix, then I ask them, what is your budget? Ask them, what is your budget you want to work on? And if you can't do it within their budget, then you need to tell them, then I'm sorry, I'm not going to be the one to do your hair. Maybe you can recommend a newer stylist in the salon or another salon, but you just got to be upfront with them. The ones that question your pricing, they should know right up front what the pricing is. They should see it on your website before they even come in. And during your consultation is only going to happen with extensions or, color or those type of services really, but haircut pricing, they should already know. So I hope that what I'm sharing with you today helps you a bit. It helps you to really realize that these conversations that you're so uncomfortable having, they're necessary. And honestly, when you're doing the right things in your business, they're not so hard. When you're setting up those boundaries, you're doing your consultations and you're really doing a good one that makes them feel comfortable in your chair, they're not going to be so hard. And if you lose a client, then they weren't meant to be your client anyhow, and you're better off. So I want to challenge you today. I want to challenge you to have that hard conversation. I'm sure somewhere in this episode, somebody has come to mind. Some situation has come to mind. And I want you to trust me on this. Have the conversation, because you will thank yourself later. So I'm going to end this episode with, some insight and inspiration from the Let Them book by Mel Robbins. If you haven't read it, guys, it's so perfect for us as hairstylists, because we're people pleasers and we let people walk on us way too much. So what she says, this really resonated with me and I felt I needed to share it with you. It says, let them have their reaction. Let me, meaning you, do the hard thing that seems so hard now, because it is the right thing to do and it will save you from pain later, such as feeling burned out, hating your job. Let me give myself the opportunity to have the life and career I have been dreaming about. And you know what else, guys? What I deserve, what you deserve, the life that we deserve. I hope this episode blessed you today. If it did, I would love to hear about it. Hit the subscribe button, leave a review, let me know. And also, if you know of a hairstylist that would really benefit from this podcast, would you pass on the information to them? I really appreciate you listening to this, and I'll see you in the next episode. Happy haircutting, everybody. Hey, friend, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If it helped you, I'd love for you to hit subscribe and leave a quick review and share what stood out most for you today. When you leave a review, it helps other stylists find this show. And hey, if you want to hang out with me more and learn alongside other like-minded stylists who are working on building their clientele as well, I have a free Facebook group I just started. You'll find the link in the show notes below. I'd love to have you there and hang out with you. I'll be back next week. Until then, happy haircutting, and remember, your chair is your business, so own it like a pro.